Hey guys, back again with another video. Games I've been playing recently video. I sometimes do these when I'm playing multiple games at once, and this happens to be a time where I've been playing a bunch of games. I've got three, well, basically two, I guess, going at the same time right now. I'm going to be starting a new game soon. I'm going to be starting Life is Strange soon. But yeah, I wanted to talk about all these games, give kind of impressions on all of them instead of doing like an impressions video on each one. There's a couple demos I've been playing too that I wanted to talk about. So I thought it would be a good time to do another one of these types of videos. We'll start with the demos. And the first demo is the Legend of Legacy demo on the 3DS. And this game is coming out in, I think it's mid-October. So it's coming out soon. And this is a traditional JRPG. Something that I find is quite rare these days. You have like things like Bravely Default. And this game, actually, in terms of visuals, looks fairly similar to that. But yeah, I feel like these days it's all we're getting is like dungeon crawlers, dungeon crawler mania. But the typical kind of nice traditional JRPG, the kind of game you'd see back on the PlayStation 1, is quite rare these days. And this game was always interesting to me. And the demo, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And it's one of those demos where you can carry over your progress into the full game. And I definitely recommend the demo. At the same time, I think there's going to be people that hate on this game. It's going to be interesting to see the reviews when it comes out because this is an RPG that isn't focused too heavily on story. The concept is fairly interesting where you have this kind of mysterious island with only one town, and explorers come to this island to kind of figure out its secrets and mysteries. And that's all I really want to say. There's obviously a little more about the story than that when you play the demo, but this game is not heavy on cutscenes or anything like that. You choose your character in the beginning, and this game is actually a spiritual successor to the Saga games, which I've never played a single one of those games, but this makes me want to go and play those games. I really want to play Sagar Frontier on the PS1. I definitely need to play that, but this game, you basically choose your character in the beginning, and you can kind of meet the other characters that you don't choose along the way, and you can kind of have your own party of up to 3 characters. And the battle system here is your tried and true turn-based battle system. It's very interesting, though. I guess one of the issues with the demo, and this is actually a thing that's like as far as I know, the Saga games have always kind of been like this, where the game really doesn't explain itself all that well. I think there's a digital manual you can read up, but you have to really kind of experiment to figure out how things work, and it took me a while to understand how the battle system worked. The magic system in particular, where you have to find like you find like a water magic type thing, I guess, in this forest that you're exploring. And you'll get like an item where you can kind of attune your party to the water element. And then you can find like these shards throughout the environments where once you're attuned to that element, there's like 4 different elements in battle, and enemies can attune the battle to a certain element. And this kind of reminds me of Chrono Cross a bit. But basically, say you're attuned to the water element and you have a shard on your one character, and this shard allows you to use the Purify spell where you can cure poison. If you keep using that spell with the shard, that character will learn that spell after a while. And it's weird because some characters learn spells quicker than others. So that was maybe a bit annoying. It took a long time for my one character to earn the water shield magic. But once you kind of understand how the magic system works, it's pretty cool. The game is grindy. There's also not really a traditional leveling up system. You don't gain levels. Your stats kind of level up. You have different weapon types, so you might have like a spear, and you have like a spear attack that uses 0 SP. If you keep using that attack, you'll earn a new spear skill, which will use SP. And if you keep using that, you might gain some other new skills. So yeah, it's a very experimental battle system that I really dig. It's very fun. The game's also quite challenging. Some of the boss battles in the demo took me a lot of attempts to be able to beat them. A lot of strategy with this battle system. I really enjoyed it. The game is also very focused on exploration. When you're trying to clear these maps, and you get like a few forest environments in the beginning where like the game's got a weird visual style where trees will just like pop up into view. It's kind of hard to describe the visual style. Like I said before, it kind of looks like Bravely Default. And the main town you visit is really gorgeous. The game overall just looks fantastic. I have to say the soundtrack is amazing too. The soundtrack is so good in this demo. I think the soundtrack's done by the guy who did the Final Fantasy 13 soundtrack, so yeah, really good stuff there. But you're exploring these environments, and the map percentage will keep going up, and you can sell your maps that you kind of clear. So it's got like this exploration focus where you really want to search the entire environment, and you can find different items and things like that. Um, but yeah, overall, a really enjoyable demo. I really dug it. That said, I think people expecting a story focus will not enjoy it that much. This is a gameplay focused JRPG, and yeah, you don't see these types of games too often. I'm definitely looking forward to the full release of this game. The next demo I played was the Uncharted demo collection, or the Uncharted Collection demo. A weird demo because you only get a bit of Uncharted 2. And okay, Uncharted. Where do I start here? I've talked about the series before, how I've always hated it. I've always found it overrated. But you know what? I thought I'm gonna give this series one last shot with this demo because I was interested in this collection. It's a nice package of all three games in HD. Well, they were always in HD, but with 60 frames per second. I think they were supposed to have improved aiming, less bullet sponge enemies, which was one of my main complaints with that series. So I gave this demo one last shot. I still fucking hate it. Okay, maybe I might get a bit ranty here, and I apologize to Uncharted fans. They're probably gonna hate this segment, but I don't get it. I don't get Uncharted. I don't get this fucking series. I don't know why it's so popular. I don't know how people enjoy it. It blows my mind. I don't get it. Most games, I can kind of understand, even though I don't like them, but I just don't understand these games. This demo, I hated it. I hated it so much. Like, where to start with this? Like, okay, for one, I've always thought this series was like so shallow. When Uncharted 2 came out, obviously people were like so impressed with like these set piece moments and this crazy action. And to me, when it came out, I thought it was dated at the time. I thought other games were doing this kind of shit. It's just flashier, it looks better, it sounds great. Who cares? It's still the same shit. But now, playing this like years later, it blows my mind how dated this feels. Like there's this like helicopter battle in this demo that is the most infuriating, boring thing ever. It was so atrocious. It's this kind of gameplay where it's like these linear environments, this linear set piece driven action game. It's the kind of thing that like it's dated now, and like 10, 20 years from now, this game is going to hold up so poorly. I've talked about Last of Us, how I kind of think that game's overrated too. But at least that game has a strong story and good writing. I still think the gameplay in that game is not that great either, but at least it has some impact to it. The action is fairly visceral. In this game, shooting enemies feels so wooden. Like it doesn't feel good. When you shoot enemies, there's hardly any impact. They just like go, ugh, a little blood spatter or whatever. The aiming in this game, I don't think is very good. Like the actual aiming is fairly poor. Drake, the way he moves, it's so floaty. Like it just doesn't feel right. You've got your boring cover-based shooter moments. The AI, I think, is particularly terrible. Like the enemies just run around like idiots. And of course they have like this like it's almost like aimbot almost, where they just always seem to hit you no matter where they are or where you are. Uh, like the controls just did not feel right. I thought maybe they would improve that. Enemies still like I've noticed it was maybe a bit better from when I played Uncharted 2 back in the day. I still haven't played the third one, but enemies are less bullet spongy than they used to be, but they still take way too many shots to kill. There's just no impact or weight. Then you have like the dialogue. What little dialogue there was in the demo. I remember Uncharted 2. I wasn't impressed with the dialogue either. It's so like they go for like this humor that just falls on its face. Like and Nathan Drake as a character, I think he's the most uninteresting, boring character like ever. Like I can't stand him. I really hated. I remember hating the story back when I played Uncharted 2. The game looks good. I mean, it's all retouched and things like that. It obviously looks better than it did on the PS3. The soundtrack was pretty good. I like the soundtrack, but I hate the gameplay so much in these games. I don't understand it. I'll never get it. I was hoping maybe I enjoyed it this time, but nope. Uncharted, not for me. Not a series for me. Not in the slightest. So that was a bit unfortunate, but let's move on. Anyways, now on to the games. I'm not going to talk too much about this one, but Codename Steam. I did a demo impressions, and my impressions are sort of the same. I gotta say, I'm not feeling this game as much as I was hoping to. Uh, like, there's one part of this game that just drives me fucking nuts. And it wasn't so bad in the demo, probably because the difficulty wasn't too bad, but as the further you get into this game, the more challenging it gets. But it's one of those games that almost feels unfair in a way because you have to keep kind of moving forward, and if you don't move forward quickly, enemies will spawn behind you, and they infinitely respawn until you clear the missions. And that alone really bugs me a lot. Like, it's actually like I'm not enjoying this game too much because of that. It gets really irritating. And the game has quicker turns compared to the demo, which is nice, but I don't know, that alone is just making me not enjoy this too much. And I gotta say, I'm not really liking the story all that much in this game either. It's still relatively enjoyable, but I have to say, it's very frustrating. The game's getting to a point where, like, I'm about 10 hours in, and it's just getting very irritating. Like, every mission is just harder than the next. And I've said before, I'm terrible at strategy games, so obviously that doesn't help. That doesn't help much, but honestly, I don't see myself putting too many more hours into this. I wish they would really tone it down on the enemies respawning, and that's been a pet peeve of mine in many games. I just hate when enemies constantly respawn, and I find strategy RPGs resort to this way more than any other type of game. But yeah, generally you can look up my demo impressions. I generally feel the same about it. It's still a pretty decent game. And it is a bit unfortunate that it sold as poorly as it did. I don't think this game sold well at all. But yeah, not super impressed with it. But moving on to another strategy RPG actually that I've been playing, and that's Lost Dimension here on the Vita. I was planning to play through this game way earlier, but there was like a shipping delay in Canada, so it didn't come out until like months later than the US release. But very interesting game, but like with Codename Steam, this game is very frustrating as well. The concept of this game was always intriguing to me, where you have to make your way up this tower and fight this villain named the End rather. And this villain is very lame. Like, this game has got one of the most lame villains I've ever seen in an RPG. But the concept is cool, where you're a part of this like task force sort of to stop the End, and there's a traitor in your midst. And your character has like an ability that lets you kind of like find out who the traitor is, basically. And you're going up these floors, and you have to kind of pick out a traitor to be sacrificed, or a character to be sacrificed. So you have to correctly spot the traitor, and it's very cool. I actually really dig that whole idea, and I like what they do with it with this game. And the characters are relatively interesting. Not the most they're not amazing characters, but they're all quite interesting, and it's very fun to kind of try to figure out who the traitor is. But between going up these floors, you have these strategy RPG battles where it's kind of like a mix of Valkyria Chronicles and XCOM, where it's in third person. You move around in third person like Valkyria Chronicles, but the actual combat kind of plays out more like XCOM, I find. But like with Codename Steam, in fact, I was enjoying this game right off the bat. I'm at like the third floor right now. I was enjoying this game. Like, immediately when I started this game, I was loving it. But as I've gotten further, they've started to introduce respawning enemies. There's this one mission that I just beat where you'd have like these robots that would constantly spawn new enemies. And if you didn't rush to get to them as fast as you can and kill them before they kept spawning enemies, they would infinitely spawn these enemies. So you would get to a point where you'd have, I'm not even joking here, like 30 enemies on the map at the same time, and you can't possibly deal with them, and you just fucking die. So that took a lot of trial and error to finally get through that mission. And then I get to the next mission, and then there's this like weird platform thing that spawns more enemies. And then there's this other platform thing that kept shooting missiles. And this game just ramped up in difficulty like crazy. The spike in difficulty here was absolutely fucking ridiculous. And I'm still stuck on the mission with these weird floor robot things. and I can't do it. I've tried this mission like 5 times, and I still can't do it. So basically, I'm forced to grind, and it's really, I don't know, it's really frustrating because I've struggled to really play this game more. There's another game I'm playing, and I'll talk about it after this. That ever since I started playing that game, I haven't really had the will to go back to this. It really sucks. Uh, but yeah, I probably chalk that up to me just being bad at strategy games. It's a shame because the general gameplay is pretty fun, but like respawning enemies is just one of those things that just annoys the fuck out of me. It just always feels unfair to me. But other than that, it's a pretty enjoyable game. It's not gonna light your world on fire, but if you really love strategy RPGs, I think this is actually worth the pickup. Whether I go back to it though, I don't know. Kind of annoying. But yeah, that's Lost Dimension. But the other game, the game I've been putting the most time into right now, is obviously Persona 4 Dancing All Night. This is kind of like the limited first launch edition or whatever. I didn't get that really fancy special edition, way too expensive in Canada for that. But very fun game. But one aspect of it is very disappointing to me, and that's the story mode. Now, I've been reading some reviews, and the story seems to get some mixed opinions. Some people love the story in this game, some people hate it. I hate it. I can't stand the story in this game. I think it's absolutely garbage. Like, the characters just talk forever and ever and ever, and the story is so uninteresting and boring. It's weird, because I like the characters. I mean, I like the story in Persona 4. I love the characters, but I don't know. There's just something about like the writing in this that just does not appeal to me whatsoever. There's some moments of humor that are pretty funny, but overall, like the story here, I just find it so uninteresting. I put in about 5 hours into the story before I started just skipping the dialogue, and I actually finished the story not too long ago. So yeah, like based on those first 5 hours, I honestly this game I wasn't loving it all that much because the story I hated so much. It's like there was like 30 minutes of dialogue, and then you'd play a song, and then another 30 minutes of dialogue. It was just ridiculous. But now that I've started to dive into the free dance mode and start playing songs constantly, now I'm loving the game. Now I think it's great because the actual gameplay here, the rhythm gameplay, is fantastic. Where your kind of notes kind of fly towards the left and right sides of the screen. You have like up, left, and down on the D-pad on the left side. Triangle, circle, and X on the right side, and notes fly towards those sides of the screen. You have to press some buttons at the same time. There's hold notes. There's like a fever mode that you can get into to up your score. It's not the most complicated rhythm game out there, but it's fun, and it's very flashy and colorful. The backgrounds are great. Yeah, the characters dancing. It's fantastic to see that. Great animations. It's just the story mode. I just think is terrible. It's almost like a visual novel in a way, and I have to wonder if like it would have been better to go with like an RPG focus. Now, obviously, they can't go with something like Theatrhythm, which I actually think I like better than this game. But that game was able to kind of combine RPG elements and rhythm gameplay in a very interesting way that generally worked. So it's a bit weird because Persona 4 is an RPG, so why not kind of try to combine an RPG and a rhythm game? I don't know exactly what they would do, but I think I would find that way more interesting than like the visual novel rhythm game kind of fusion that they went for with this game. But yeah, good soundtrack, great songs, awesome remixes. Another, I guess, disappointing thing. Why not have Persona 3 songs in here? I mean, maybe it wouldn't make sense thematically and with the story that they have, but I don't know. Persona 3, I actually think that game has a better soundtrack than Persona 4, so I don't know, it's a bit disappointing that there's no Persona 3 content or songs in here whatsoever. Other than the free dance mode, you've got shopping. You can always get money from songs. You can buy new costumes for your characters and items for you to use. That's very addictive. I'm very addicted to getting as much money as I can and buying all the costumes. I'm trying to go for all the trophies, so it's a game I'm probably going to keep coming back to throughout the year. And I'm still playing it. I'm fairly addicted to it now. So yeah, first impressions weren't so hot. I don't like the story mode, but overall I think the game's quite fun. If you're into rhythm games, Persona 4, you probably already have this. If you're not into either of those things, don't bother. If you don't like rhythm games and you like Persona 4, that's an interesting question. You know, I'd probably say, I don't know, that's a tough question. I don't know. I really don't know. Probably not at the price it is. I'd say maybe wait for a price drop. Um, it's a fairly it's actually pretty expensive for what it is. I gotta be honest. There's only like, I think like close to 30 songs. Compare that to Thea the Rhythm of like the hundreds of songs. Yeah, not a lack of content in this game, I'd say for sure. But overall, still quite enjoyable. But that's it, guys. Those are all the demos and games I've been playing. What have you been playing recently? What are you looking forward to? Obviously, Legend of Legacy, I'm really looking forward to. October is just crazy for games, man. We got Tales of Zestiria coming soon. I'm going to be playing Life is Strange. Disgaea 5 comes out in a few days. Yeah, October is absolutely nuts. November, of course, we've got Fallout 4. I'm going to be really into that game for quite a while. Xenoblade Chronicles X in December. The rest of the year is going to be very good for video games for sure. But that's it, guys. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.